I'm Craig, and welcome to It's Sexy When Men Cook. So today we're going to make pho, and that's just basically Vietnamese soup, for lack of a better explanation. Southeast Asia, pho. And it's basically just a simple broth. You can use a chicken broth, a vegetable broth, a beef broth. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to kind of show you how to prep a beef broth. And you're going to start with soup bones. And you're going to simmer those in hot water over a period of time with salt and pepper, spices, yada, yada, whatever you want. And it takes a long time to make broth. So I did you the favor of making broth already yesterday. So that's just going to be sitting there warming up so that we can use it in our pho. But I thought it would be advantageous to help most of you that are going to be doing this on your own. Simple, basically simple beef broth. So this is just beef broth you buy at the store. You can buy it in the can. So all we're going to do is add some water in a pan, and that's actually almost boiling. We're going to add this broth to it, and doing about half of that because you've already got some water in there. You don't want to overwhelm it with broth. What you're looking for is the flavor. You don't want to have this heavy, heavy broth for your pho. Pho is actually very light. It's a very light broth. Okay, so that's taken care of. Now what we're going to do is char some vegetables. And you notice I've got the burner on. That's quite hot. And I'm just going to hold these with some tongs, and we're just going to try to get a little bit of a char on these. Not a lot, just enough to kind of get it to turn brown a little bit. We're going to set that right there. And just get these charred up a smidge. And we're going to get some onions on here too, because we want to have some good onion flavor. That's too hot to put that way. We're going to have to do it that way. There we go. That's what I wanted. There we go. Don't ever touch a flame with your fingers. I almost did that, caught myself short. Well, basically, you just let those char up really good. Get a little good heat on them. And then once they're kind of turning brown in spots where they're actually starting to cook a little bit, that's what you want. You don't want to cook it all the way through. You're basically just wanting to char it so that you've got some flavor being released from the onion itself. And that one's got just a little side there is kind of smoking a little bit. And once you've charred these for a few minutes, again, it doesn't have to take a lot of time. You're going to just pop those in our broth. Well, I've got some garlic and some lemongrass, and anytime you're cooking Asian, you're going to typically be using ginger, lemongrass, things like that. So we're going to char these gingers up a little bit. And again, you don't have to cook these things. You're not trying to cook them on an open flame. If you don't have a natural gas stove, that's perfectly fine. Get a cookie sheet, line it with a little bit of aluminum foil, toss it on the broil setting on your oven, and broil it for a few minutes. I mean, there again, just till you start seeing some of that brownness. And you're just going to dump those in there. And that is now simmering. And now the important part, since we are making a Southeastern Asian dish, I get cheesecloth, or you can get tea bags, you can get pretty much anything you want to. This is actually just cheesecloth, and inside the cheesecloth I've wrapped some star anise, which is just great fragrance, good flavor. I have some coriander seeds, those are ground. You don't have to grind them, you can just go straight coriander seeds. And if you've watched any of the shows, you know that coriander is the seed version of what? Do you remember? Cilantro. We've got some nice cilantro here today too. But coriander and cilantro are related. It's seed and plant. Okay, we can go ahead and turn that off. We want a cinnamon stick. Cinnamon sticks are good. We got our star anise in there, and we've got our pouch of all of our other ingredients. And you're just going to drop that in and let it do its thing. Now, it could simmer for hours if you want. Like right now, I've got this boiling. It's just boiling, so I'm going to turn it down and let it simmer. This is tamari sauce, or low-sodium soy sauce. And it's just, you're not going to put a lot in there. You're going to put about that much for a pot. Figure maybe a tablespoon, maybe two, depending on your taste. And you're just going to let that go. In the meantime, we're going to go over and start getting our ingredients ready to go in the pho. Basically, you're going to take some shallots. You're going to chop them up as big or as little as you want. I think I've actually made these pretty small And you can, if you know, you don't want to put that in, if you want, you can put it in that side. You can cut that in half. You don't have to be exact. There really isn't an exact science. I guess it depends on how pretty you want to make your dish. But we're just going to throw that in there. We've got some green onions. I've already diced up a bunch of green onions. Now I'm using the white as well as the stem, which is more chive-like looking. Get flavor off of both. And if you notice, I'm not putting these in the broth. The broth is something separate. The whole point about pho, which makes it kind of fun, is we're going to have this nice bowl of hot broth, and it's going to cook our meat, and it's going to cook the rest of our vegetables. So you don't want to have it super, super hot because you still got to eat it, but it's going to eat everything. We've got limes. Got to have limes if you're having pho. We've got some jalapeno, and I've sliced these reasonably thin. I mean, they're reasonably thin. Again, you can cut that really big if you want to make it really hot. You can use Thai chili. You can use serrano. This is jalapeno. That's kind of a common one around here that we use. But there isn't a hard and fast rule on the type of chili. One of the things that I do like that I would say you need to insist on if you're going to have good pho is mung bean. These are mung bean sprouts. And they've got a great crunch. They're full of water, full of liquid. Kind of like celery. You know, they've got a really unique sprouty flavor to them, very herbaceous. But that's really good. And then just some good old-fashioned standard mushrooms. Nothing fancy. These aren't shiitakes or anything else, baby bellas. These are just good old-fashioned white mushrooms. You get them at the store. You can get them pre-sliced like these. So really, you can get almost everything pretty much ready to go. The other thing I've got here is I've got some fresh Thai basil. I don't know how they grow these big leaves, but Thai basil plants are just huge leaves, and I love them. What we're going to do real quick, for the sake of time, now you can put these in whole. In fact, we'll leave a couple out whole just because I think they'll make a nice dressing on the soup. That's a big one. Pull that one out. There we go. We'll have a small one there for the soup presentation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll these up. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm going to roll these basil leaves up just in a nice little tight roll. See how nice that is, how cute that is? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut what's called ribbons. This is called cutting ribbons. You're just going to put that knife right there on your finger so you can keep track of it, and you're just going to cut right like that and make some beautiful little ribbons. And that is all we need of that. We'll just set that aside. Get our nice little decorative bay leaf. And then same with the cilantro. Now, when you're making pho, a lot of times people will take the cilantro, they'll strip the leaves off. We've basically got everything here that we could possibly need. I've already done my rice noodles, 8 minutes. Rice noodles cook really, really fast. Vermicelli, if you don't have rice, you can get like their little angel hair pasta. These are rice noodles. They cook 8 minutes. Run them under cold water once you pull them out, rinse them, and then they're good. You can pop those in the refrigerator and use them the next day, whatever. They're really, really easy to use. This is, I don't know how close we can get to this, but this is some of the Wagyu steak that I get. And I've cut that really, really thin. You can see how thin that is. I've cut that really thin, and all I've done is sear it. All I've done is sear the outside, just a quick sear so that it's still medium rare to rare in the center. Because this is going to cook in your broth. Your broth is going to be 211 degrees if it's simmering. So it's going to be over 200 degrees more than likely when you put this in there, which makes pho such a great date night meal because you can order it, you can put your ingredients in it, you can talk as you're dressing your meal, you can talk with each other, and then, you know, as it cools down a little bit, you can stir it, cool it. It's got great fragrance. It's just a great date meal. It really, really is. If you don't mind slurping a little bit, it's a great date meal. All right, let's go back over here and check our broth and see how this is going. And oh yeah, this is coming along. So this is just nice fragrance. It's wonderful, smells good. Let's give it a little taste. We've got our sample spoon here. We only use that once. We're going to turn that heat up just a smidge as we prep our bowl. There we go. Turn that up just a smidge because you really want it to be hot. We're not going to be real fancy here. You're going to also want a nice skimmer because as you get done with your broth, you're going to want to pull all those ingredients out. and then you're going to strain your broth one more time just to make sure there's nothing left over, especially if you're making homemade broth. If you're making store-bought broth, if you get store-bought broth and all you're doing is adding and developing flavor in what you have, probably aren't going to need to worry about straining it as much because it's going to be pretty much fairly clear. And pho broth, excuse me, goodness, I'm getting emotional about the pho. Pho broth is, it's very clear. It's a clear type of a broth. So whether it's beef or vegetable or chicken, it's usually a fairly clear, translucent type of a broth. So we've got everything ready except for this. This is hoisin sauce or sriracha sauce. And sriracha, if you've had it before, kind of warm. So you got to be ready for that. And the hoisin is just kind of a sweet sauce, but it really adds flavor and some character to the soup. So all we're going to do now is assemble. Let's be very, very careful because that is very hot soup. And very gently pour that in. See that steam coming off of it? That's exactly what you want. Okay. And we don't need that anymore, so let's turn that off. Oh, it doesn't want to go off. There we go. All right. Now we're going to assemble. Take our noodles. That's about enough for one person. Plop that right in there. And now meat, again, this is steak. We're just doing a steak pho today. And that is so hot that if I put this meat in there, and you can see this is pretty much rare. I mean, it's gonna, but that water, that hot water will cook it and make it more than tasty and juicy. We're gonna throw in some of our green onions, and I wanna get some of the ends and also some of the stem, because I think that just, not only that, but it just looks really nice too. And food is also not only about taste and smell, but it's also about presentation. Some of our scallions. And gotta have our jalapenos. A couple of our jalapenos in here. 2 is usually enough for me. And let's see, we got our mung bean. These are like crispy noodles, really, to be honest. I don't know why, but I really like mung beans. Let's see if we move that out of the way. We've got our lemon, and we've got our beautiful little basil. We're gonna take some of our ribboned cut, and I'm just gonna basically just pull these apart because I love the smell of cilantro. So we've bruised that because we've pulled it apart and broken it. And there you go. Our lime. Oh, do you see that spray all over the place? But it's okay, I'm prepared. Okay, there we go. And that's pretty much it. I mean, have we forgotten anything? I don't think so. Broth can be bought from the store, tamari sauce, soy sauce. You've got your ingredients, your star anise, your coriander, your cinnamon, your ginger, your lemongrass. That all goes into the broth. You char your carrots, char your onions, char your ginger. Once you get your broth done, let that simmer for a long time and you're good to go. And it was that easy, guys. It's literally like not a lot of prep time, and it's fun to build your own. Make this like a fun date night. I mean, you got all these ingredients, kind of like taco bar. This is a pho bar. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed It's Sexy When Men Cook, and we look forward to seeing you next time.